Hi everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a masculine card and I'm using the Darcie's No Trout About It. I got this from Jamie at Not Too Shabby. She has a rewards program and a discount code. You can use the N2S10 and you can get 10% off your order. I will have this set linked below. She's got tons of cool stuff in her shop. I used it for a previous project this month with the 10 pins, which are super cool. I liked using them. The only thing that was hard for me anyway was matching the colors on the fish. I was able to match the colors on the little fox just fine. But I wanted to do another project with this stamp set, and I wanted to do something completely different. Now, Father's Day is coming up. I know Mother's Day is coming up first, but Father's Day is coming up. And if you struggle with masculine cards, it might be time to get to making those. So what I did here is stamped this fish, which is a bass, in Versamark ink on my craft cardstock, and then I used some copper embossing powder here to emboss the background. And I'm kind of just making my own pattern paper, except for the copper embossing powder has a lot of shine to it. Normally, masculine cards, when we as women think about masculine cards, we think about really clean and simple, maybe, masculine patterns, no bling, no shine, no shimmer, no glitter, just boring. Well, they don't have to be boring. You can make a really cool masculine card that is not boring, and you can get away with using just a single image. Here, after I did the background, I stamped this fish on some Nina 80-pound color or 80-pound cardstock, and I stamped it with my Ink on 3 blackout ink. My current favorite, Copic friendly ink. I like it for watercoloring too, by the way, because it's waterproof. Anyway, I started coloring it. I put a base layer down of the blue-green, that grayed blue-green color. I wanted that underneath, and Copics layer on top of each other. So you'll see in the end, my fish isn't blue-green, but it has this tint to it. When I edited this video, normally I speed up my coloring 4 times. So when you watch me color, it's 4 times. This time when I did the coloring, I slowed it down in some areas and sped it up in others. Like here, this is 2 times, just 2 times the speed. I wanted you to be able to see how the Copic color actually blends. When you first put it down, it does not seem like it blends, but it does blend into the paper. And I wanted to make sure that you could see how that really works. And I'm enjoying this angle. I'm enjoying allowing you to get really close, up close and personal with the coloring. And I'm hoping that you're enjoying it too. So I just layered these greens. I kind of had some areas that I picked out that were going to be the darker color and put my shadows there, where the fins attach to the fish. The fish kind of has a rounded body, and then this line along the fish is kind of a divot. And well, at this point, my fish is really kind of gray-green, and I wanted it to be more seaweedy green. So what I did is added the YG91 to start the idea of this color, and then I flicked in this YG95 to add a little bit more of this yellowy green seaweedy color, which the fish match the stuff in the water. So if you're fishing in a lake, there's a lot of seaweed around, your fish are probably going to look pretty close to those colors. Just something. And I'm not sure if this is actually a bass. I think it's just pretty cartoony. And then fish have scales, and it's really kind of a hard thing for me anyway to kind of replicate. I didn't want this gradient of color and to leave it just like that. So I did take the G85 and I did stipple it in the darker areas, and it just adds some detail. And then I fussy cut this little fishy out And I just made sure I left kind of an even white border around. When I first started fussy cutting, I used to take a pencil and kind of draw and then just cut on the line and then erase it when I was done. So if you struggle with keeping the, the perimeter even, you can do it that way. Then I colored the eye with the Y17, I think, and then I used my black glaze pen for the center of the eye. And then I needed a Copic marker that would work well on this craft cardstock. So I just took another piece and I scribbled it on there because I wanted to see what it would actually look like. This is the YG91, and I am going to go around each of these fish and just add just a line, just a simple line. It will have a harsh edge, and that is not what we will end up with. I'll show you what happens next. But I just went around each one, and this is embossing powder, and I've heard that it can damage your nibs. I have never had a problem. I don't normally color around embossing powder, but this one worked just fine after. They're your art supplies, your craft supplies. Do with them what you want. If you don't want to do this, don't do this by all means. For me, I mean, if it damaged the nib, I have a pack of nibs in my drawer. I could have just changed it out. I didn't because it didn't damage the nibs. In fact, I have had my Copics for 7 years or so. Never once changed a nib. I'm sure I'm probably supposed to have by now. Here I used my colorless blender, and what I did is I actually colored it right over the line that I put the Copic marker, the green, the YG, and then I let it go out beyond there. So what it's going to do is kind of disperse that color among the colorless blender. And it looks really wet at first, but it will dry back. Copics dry back, especially the lighter ones. You'll really see a difference on cardstocks like Craft. So I used my Scrap Perfect embossing bag. I do really like that. I have been absolutely loving it. It has been months and months and months, and I have had no problems with this thing. I get the best embossing that I have ever had. I don't have to pick pieces off. If I use one of the other ones I always have strays. So just pointing it out that I am loving that one. Then I decided to die cut my back panel with a stitched edge rectangle from Mama Elephant. It's from the basic set die, and I just wanted a little bit of detail. I didn't want that fish panel to go all the way to the outside. So then I pulled in a piece of brown cardstock out of my stash. I think this came from Michael's. It's thicker, but it's like came in that set with like the gray and the dark brown and it's that. So it's the thicker cardstock. It's cheap but thick. And here I'm using my Scotch repositionable tape, and I'm taping this piece to the stencil. And this is a Gina K Designs stencil. I purchased this for an upcoming project, and I just needed to use it. It was too perfect for this. And then I took my Versamark ink pad, and I just smooshed it on there. I smooshed it right on the stencil, and I made sure it went through all the spaces. Didn't need to be in the center because I am going to put that panel over this. And I use that same copper embossing powder to go around the edges here and emboss these stripes on this dark brown cardstock. This is so pretty. I love it. I need to put copper embossing powder on brown cardstock more often because this is so stinking gorgeous. And I feel like I almost wasted it on a masculine card, but it is what it is, and it does go really nice with this card. I do love it. See how it just, it's just so perfect. And I adhered this panel down to my striped background, and it just frames it up really nice. That white embossing from the sentiment just pops, and it'll pop more once I add this colored image because I left that white border around the fish, and I feel like it tied it in so nicely. And you can see now on that fish panel how that Copic that went around the outside of each of those fish has kind of I guess melted in or mellowed out. It's still there. You can still see how that makes those fish pop off that page, but it's melted in or gotten milder, or it's just it looks much nicer, not as sharp. And then here, once I add this white bordered fish, it just is such a nice masculine card, I think. And then here is the cardstock that I use for my card bases. That gray or that brown cardstock is, I think, the same kind. It's just a different, like a multi-pack. Here I used a Dovecraft? Yeah, Dovecraft ink pad to stamp that big old fish in the inside. I thought that kind of being metallic would go nicely. It doesn't really read metallic. I think if I go over it with some perfect pearls, it would be much more metallic. But this was a masculine card, so I was trying to keep all the girlies out of it. And really, you could give this to anybody. It just says you totally kick bass. I mean, if you know a girl that totally kicks bass, this would be perfect for her. But look at all that shimmer and shine that comes along with that embossing. So here is my fish. You can see how the layers of the Copic marker really did turn out nice. And here's where I did emboss over embossing. So I don't know if you didn't know you could do that. You absolutely can. Here is a couple of still shots of my card. You remember to check out Jamie's shop, and the N2S10 will get you 10% off. And thank you for stopping by. I'd love it if you would comment and subscribe and hit the bell. And as I always say, give cards generously. Bye.